Hello, this is Dominic for Kit Guru, and today I am looking at a new Ultrabook offering from Asus. This is the Zenbook ux305. So, the Asus Zenbook ux305, I'll just call it the ux305, will set you back £649.95 here in the UK. And I'll quickly go through the key spec and then we can get on to talking about other things. So, key point is it has a Core M processor, and that is the 5Y10 Core M processor, clocked at 0.8 GHz, which turbos to 2 GHz. That comes with integrated Intel HD 5300 graphics. There's also 8 GB of RAM inside, as well as the SanDisk M.2 128 GB SSD. And this lovely panel you can see here is a gorgeous 1080p display panel from Asus. That's the key spec, and we'll now look at the design, and it is simply incredible. The laptop is just, I'll just close it for you so you can have a good look. At its thickest point here, it is just 12.3mm thick. It is actually unbelievable. When I first took it out of the box and looked at it for the first time, I just laughed because I couldn't quite believe how thin it was, and also how light it is, because it is only 1.2 kilograms. Now, throughout this video review, I am going to be talking a lot about the PC Specialist Lafitte as well, because that is another Ultrabook from PC Specialist. So I'm going to link that review on this page as well, because they are quite similar, so I'm going to draw a few comparisons and similarities. But so purely on the thickness and the weight, the ux305 is both thinner and lighter than Lafitte, which is certainly a good thing. 12.3mm thick is quite simply unbelievable. So it's so light, you could take this anywhere, put this in your rucksack, lug it around, wherever you're going, no problem, you will barely feel it. Now, I'll talk you through the ports, the connectivity ports on the edges. So on this left edge here, there's just the two USB 3 ports and an SD card reader. It's important to note there are no USB 2s with the ux305, it's all USB 3. I don't really think that's a bad thing, it's all faster, everything should be backwards compatible. There we go. Now if we flick over to the right edge, there's slightly more going. We've got the power in, there's another USB 3, there's a micro HDMI, don't be fooled, it does look like a mini display port, but it is micro HDMI, and then there's also the combo audio jack. Another important thing to mention, clearly, no Ethernet port. Now I can only think Asus have done this to keep the chassis thickness to an absolute minimum. 12.3mm is ridiculous, but so no Ethernet port, that's a compromise. Asus do include a little USB to Ethernet port adapter with the ux305 in the box, so you can have Ethernet connection if you really want it. The trouble with that though is if you're going places, say you have to use Ethernet in the office for example, it's just another cable to lug around, so it's not an ideal compromise. Now, in terms of actual appearances of the ux305, online I've seen 3 different colour options. There's black, there's white, which is currently a Currys exclusive, although you do pay an extra £100 and something just for the white version, and there's also gold, but I haven't seen that retailing. So now, but if you look at mine, you can see it clearly in the photos, mine is a distinct purpley colour, and I'm a purpley grey sort of thing. I'm not sure if this is meant to be the black version, or if this is just a funny review sample Asus have sent me. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. If you look online, I'll post the buy link underneath. For Currys, that's the black version, it looks very black. Mine does not. So not really sure what's going on there. I don't think it's unattractive, it's just I can't find it online. There's no purple version, or whatever you would call it. But it is a lovely aluminium. It is very sleek. It is very sturdy. It feels nice despite being so thin, which you think might be a problem. Is this thing going to bend? There's no real screen flex, which is nice. It's just a lovely aluminium. And now, if I quickly close the lid as well, there's a brushed aluminium effect, which you probably can't see it, but you'll see it better in the photos, which is in a circular sort of pattern emerging from the Asus logo here. Now this actually reminds me of a magnetic field because it's just kind of spreading outwards, and it actually looks very nice. It's very sleek, very classy, and it feels very premium as well, so it's a lovely, lovely design. If we close this, open it back up, we've got the keyboard, an island style keyboard, as with most laptops. And just as with Lafitte, key travel is absolutely minimal, but this has to be expected. I said the same thing with Lafitte. We can't expect massive, very satisfying key travel on such a thin laptop. It is barely anything, but you do get used to it, and typing does become faster the more you get used to it. I've been using this for a few days already, and I've already adjusted to it, so all is well. Now the trackpad is very nice and smooth, very responsive, which is something Lafitte did not have. But the mousepad, the integrated mouse buttons, they're very clicky, which is I find that a bit annoying. Some trackpads don't have a click at all, it's just a single press. But this trackpad, the mousepad, it's quite clicky. But I suppose that is me being very pedantic, but there we go. I just find it slightly annoying. So that's all for the design really. We've got this funny colour which I couldn't really find online. I'm not sure if this is meant to be the black version, but it's so thin and so light, it is a beautiful, beautiful Ultrabook. And now we can move on to performance of the ux305. The Core M has the 5Y10 CPU, and that is clocked at 0.8 GHz, which is comparatively slow for what we'd expect for a modern day system. It does turbo 2 GHz, but the base clock on Lafitte is 2.1 GHz, which is more like it. 0.8 sounds very, very slow. The thing is though, it does allow fanless design because it's going slower than usual, slower than what we might like. There's less heat output, so there's actually no fan on Core M. It's fanless. Following on from that, it's ultra low power, well ultra low power I suppose, because it's not actually Broadwell U, it's Broadwell Y. So it's got a 4.5 watt TDP, which is very impressive. Now that particular Core M is actually the baseline Core M. We've seen the high-end I suppose, the highest performing Core M in the Asus T300 Transformer book. So this is supposedly the worst, I suppose, Core M, but really there's not much between them, a few different clock speeds, but that's about it. It comes with the integrated Intel HD 5300 graphics. Broadwell U comes with 5500, so it's not quite the same, but really both aren't great. You're not going to be gaming on either of them. They both do the job for things, everyday jobs really. Web browsing, word processing, watching a film, all fine. Just don't game on it. It is not going to work. You can see the benchmarks. It is not a gaming machine. Now, there's also 8 GB of RAM, which I think is plenty for Core M, and it works very well, particularly with the M.2 SSD. Everything is very, very fast and very, very responsive. The only problem is I would say it's only 128 GB, and that's the M.2 SSD, so capacity is not very high. You can easily whack in a SD card to boost up the storage. I think that's supported up to another 128 GB, so that's doubling of the storage, but still it's not a lot. Asus do advertise, they give you a 3 TB of online cloud storage, so that's there if you want it, but it's just not the same really, is it, as having a bigger SSD inside. But clearly it's just to keep costs down. It's fast but not massive. And I've already covered, this is not really a gaming laptop, but the battery life is good. On our PC Mark benchmark it lasted for, let me find it, 4 hours and 52 minutes, and that is a very, very impressive score. Considering that's under intense load, you're going to get hours more than that for just everyday usage. So we can really expect to take this out, take the ux305 out anywhere, and you will be absolutely fine. So that is pretty much it for the ux305. If we just go over 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4, all fairly standard, and there is this is a bugbear for me. I think it might just be because I review the products, I don't uninstall everything that I would if I owned the product. There's the usual amount of Asus bloatware, and that's quite a lot. They're constantly telling you to register your device, constantly telling you to get your free cloud storage. It's the antivirus popping up every 2 minutes telling you, do you want to download this file, your PC is not protected, so and so on. It does annoy me, but if you do buy the ux305, you can just uninstall all those things. So the ux305 is a very good performer. It's a great ultrabook. It is so beautiful. The curved edges are lovely, so light, so thin, and we've seen Core M and an SSD make a very good combination. The only problem is we have to bring in Lafitte into the equation. It's actually quite unfortunate for Asus. If I had got this before Lafitte, or if I hadn't reviewed Lafitte, I would be saying this is unbelievable, so light, so thin, yet it's really capable, it can do everything you want it to. But then there is the PC specialist Lafitte. It has an i3, so it gets more power from the i3 as compared to the Core M. It's got more storage, same amounts of RAM, but it's got a 240GB drive in Lafitte. It is slightly thicker, but only just. It's 18mm thick and it weighs 1.4 kilograms. So it is very similar to the ux305. It is just slightly thicker, weighs slightly more, but it is more powerful. The main thing though is it costs £150 less. So you are getting more bang for effectively less buck. So while the ux305 is a really good laptop, if I had it before Lafitte, I'd be saying this is phenomenal. But I think I have to recommend Lafitte instead because it's still just as, well, only just thicker, only just heavier, still very attractive, and it's actually a more powerful, faster system. And it costs £150 less, so you can't really argue with that, can you? So this is Dominic for Kit Guru. This is the ux305, but if you're looking for an ultrabook, you should probably go with the PC specialist Lafitte.